Everybody, welcome to the martial arts of sales. I hope everyone's having a great week, regardless of what's going on in our country. I leave everything in God's hands. This is part 5 of a 7-part series on how to help you develop a strong sales foundation so that you could potentially become not only a dynamic salesman, but a potential world-class salesperson. Before we dig into part number 5, I just want to recap the first 4 parts. Part number 1, we talked about the right sales foundation, or building a strong sales foundation. There's about 8 steps that you need to do in part number 1. Part number 2, we talked about this right sales process through the straight line method. Now there are 3 steps to part number 2. Part number 3, we talked about engagement, how to engage your prospect in the cold call sales process. Now, there's about 8 to 9 different steps that you need to master in order to get them and make them feel comfortable in the cold calling sales process. Part number 4, we talked about understanding your prospects and then how to take the prospect and converting them into a customer. Okay? Now, there's about 7 different steps you need to learn in part number 4. Now, part number 5, we're going to talk about how to use 7 effective sales techniques so that you can convert and close more leads into sales. And there's about 7 strong sales techniques. Before we dig into this, now for the introduction. Hello everybody, welcome to the Martial Arts of Sales. This is part 5 of a 7-part series on how to build a strong sales foundation so that you can become not only a dynamic salesman, but a potential world-class salesperson. Before we dig into the topic, you know what to do, right? Hit the subscription button below. Also, tap the notification. And if you like this video, after watching it, give it a thumbs up. I do ask you to share the video with others. Now, let's dig into this. I'm excited. These are sales techniques that I've been using over the years. Now, techniques don't mean nothing unless you use them correctly and at the right time. So there's a lot to it, but I'm going to keep it simple. The first one is what I call the power close. Now, these are in no orders. I mean, you can use them at any time, but you have to understand what a power close is. For me, a power close is you use it strategically. You don't have to be aggressive about it, but it's how you say it. So for example, I could talk to a customer and I'm asking them for the order, and I could just tell them, hey, listen, do you buy things over the phone before? Of course you have, right? I'm not asking you to do or make any decision that you don't do all the time. That's a power close. It's subtle, but it's very powerful. You have to learn to master the art of power close. There's a lot of other different types of power closes. I won't go into all of it right now, but I just want you to understand that a power close is a very effective sales technique if it's used properly in the right content and also how you say it as well. The second one is what I call the box close. Now, a box close is really a lot of closes cumulative. Okay, there's certain ways you can use box close. One of the ways I box people in the end of the sales, after I gave my presentation and I gave it everything that I have and I addressed their concerns, I showed them the value, I did everything that I needed to do. At the end of the sales conversation, I asked 3 very powerful questions. Do you like the idea? Does it make sense? Do you understand the value and the solutions to your problem? Do you see how this is going to not only solve your problem, but how it's going to help you generate more revenue? See, you're boxing them in. so that it never comes down to the money. Because the last thing you want to do is go to the close, ask for the order, and you didn't do your homework and not qualify them whether they can afford your services or your product. Does that make sense? And number 3 is what I call the drop close. I use that very sporadic. A drop close is where I've seen a lot of salespeople where they're desperate to make a sale and they start at a high price. Sometimes they may overprice it, but they start at a price and then they drop it down to the lowest price they possibly can and quickly. Now, that's not the right way to do a drop close. One of the ways I use a drop close is if I could show you a way to save 15%, if I could show you a way to save, a certain amount of dollars, would you be willing to do that? I only drop close at the very end when I need to do it, but I don't do it as a drop close. I do it within the sales process. What do I mean by that? Is, listen, Mr. Client, my price is XYZ. What I'm offering you today is a one-time discount at this price. Because what happens is if you drop the price too low, you're letting them know that you oversold it, that it's not really valuable, that they could have gotten it cheaper. See what I'm saying? So never drop close where you actually look like a fool. That's just the way it is. So use a drop close very strategically. Number 4 is what I call the O.B.C, which is the opening, the body, and the close of the sales process. That's called my straight line method. You always have to use that technique because when you do the opening of a call, you have to build a lot of trust. You have to show that you're valuable. You have to be able to get the opportunity that you can tell them a story or to go in what I call the body of the O.B.C. The body is where you're going to increase your value. The body is where they're going to show them that they need to hire you and reasons why they need to hire you. You basically are increasing your value at that point. Well, hopefully you're doing that. And you also have to show in the body that you are a professional, that you know how to solve their problems and their needs and their wants. And then the C of the O.B.C is the closing or the converting of the lead. Usually for me, the closing starts from the hello. That's just the way it is for me. Why? Because I know I have to build trust right away. I have to build value right away because they always have a perception. So that's the O.B.C. Number 5 is what I call the takeaway. Okay, there's many takeaway techniques. One of the things that I do is if I could show you a way to increase your revenue, would you be open-minded to that? That's a takeaway. Who's going to say no to that? If I could show you a way to increase your monthly cash flow, increase your conversion ratio, your closing rate, those are all takeaways. There's other ones that you can use, but I don't want to get into all the takeaway techniques. I just want to keep it simple and give you ideas what you need to focus on part number 5 to converting more leads into sales. Number 6 is what I call the 3 F's, the feel, felt, found technique. That works. It's an old thing, but it works. I want to add something to that. In the beginning of a phone call is one of the techniques that I use is when I know the customer gets a lot of these types of calls when you cold call them. So one of the techniques that I use is, Mr. Customers, do you get a lot of these calls? That's a statement question close. They're going to say yes. Then you follow up, I understand and respect that. Then you address that. That's a close. Then I follow up with do you have any idea what's going on in your industry? That's a curiosity close. Does that make sense? Now the feel, felt, found is this. When they're rejecting you, in other words, they like everything you're saying, but they're not buying you. Or they had a bad experience. The 3 F's. I call it the feel, felt, found. Mr. Client, I understand how you feel. I felt the same way. Let me tell you what I found out. It sounds corny, but it works if you know how to use that technique. Works perfectly if you know how to use it. Number 7 is what I call the analogy close. For example, let's say a customer tells you, well, I don't want to hear a story. I hear that many times. So I said, Mr. Klein, I understand that. You want to hear the facts, right? But let me ask you a question. Do you go to the movies? Do you take your family to the movies? Do you watch, the movie theater? Do you watch movies at home? Do you watch movies on your laptop? Of course you do. Why do you watch a movie? Because you want to feel and see a good story. What you don't want to do is you don't want to be told a lie. Correct, Mr. Client? Yes. So I always give analogies. Or they say, well, I'm not a salesperson. What do you mean you're not a salesperson? Have you ever been on a job interview? Have you ever tried to get new customers? Well, you have to sell yourself, right? And your services to your potential customers. So we're all salespeople. That's what I mean about the analogy. Analogies are very powerful tools because you want to use analogies that people can relate with. Here's another one for salespeople out there. If people are struggling, what do professional athletes do when they struggle, when the team is struggling? They go back to basics, right? So if you're struggling as a salesperson, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, your business is struggling, you go back to basics. You look at what you need to change and what you need to do. Sales, and for salespeople, is about getting back to the right mindset, the right techniques, the right strategy, the right daily training. There's a lot to it. But the point I'm trying to make is that analogy closes do work because it becomes more personal. It becomes something that people could relate with, something that people understand. And when people can understand and relate with something, it becomes personal. It becomes emotional. That is an analogy close. So these are just 7 sales techniques that are very effective, that work all the time. And if you use my straight line method, it's going to work to perfection. It's just a beautiful thing. So I just want to share part number 5 with you guys. I hope this has been helpful. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube for the first time, hit the subscription button below. Do share the video with others. And more importantly, do share your comments with me. Let me know how it's going. If you have any comments on what I could do different, please share with me. And if I believe that is the right thing to do, trust me when I tell you, I will make those changes, because this is not about me. This is about you guys out there that might be struggling in sales, converting more leads, etc., especially with what's been going on with, in our country the past several months. So I hope this has been helpful. I want to thank you for being part of the martial art of sales. Till we speak again, I say goodbye for now. My name is Paul Cruz with the martial art of sales. Have a fantastic day. Bye for now.